Whispers in the Lumber by LC Datkin. I've hauled freight up and down the northern border for the better part of 12 years. It's quiet work, mostly. A lot of long nights, empty highways, and hours to think. Before this, I was logistics for the Army. Got deployed twice. Desert heat, endless paperwork, and 1,000 moving parts to make sure convoys got from point A to point B without turning into headlines. After I mustered out, this felt like the natural fit. Hauling timber instead of tanks, paper bills instead of orders. Still moving things, still useful. I typically drove at night. Less traffic, fewer distractions. My route from Thunder Bay to Duluth had become second nature, winding through forested back roads and long stretches of blacktop, so straight they felt like they'd split the earth in two. I'd stop for gas, keep the CB on low, sip strong coffee, and let the world slip by. Most nights were uneventful. That's what I liked about it. Predictable, solitary. I've always been a skeptic by nature, grew up practical, never put much stock in ghost stories or campfire nonsense. Then came the job last October. I crossed the border late, around 11:30 p.m. It was drizzling, and the customs guy looked at me longer than normal. Young kid. Had to ask twice for my paperwork, like his head was somewhere else. "Got a lot of lumber in there," he said, peering past me into the darkness. "Yeah?" I replied. "Same shipment type as last week." He nodded, but didn't move. "You hear anything back there, you don't stop. You understand?" I blinked. "What?" He shook his head, like shaking off a thought. "Drive safe, sir." I chalked it up to a bad night. Maybe he'd seen some weird moose on the road or had a fight with his girlfriend. I drove off, tires humming on wet pavement. Couple hours into Minnesota, the road dipped into a thick stretch of forest, pines rising like walls on both sides. The heater in my cab was on full blast, but I felt cold. Not a breeze through the window kind of cold, more like the kind that creeps inside your bones. That's when I heard the whispering. It was faint, like someone mumbling, just beneath the sound of the engine. I turned off the radio. Nothing. But the whispering didn't stop. I cracked the window, thinking maybe it was wind, trees brushing against each other. Nothing out there but darkness. I shook my head, just tired. I'd been pushing too hard. The road was hypnotic, and fatigue could play tricks. Then, the CB crackled. Not static, not a voice either. Something in between. Like someone trying to talk through a throat full of gravel. Words half-formed and warped, broken and backwards. I turned the volume down, then off. Still, the whispers continued. In my rearview mirror, something moved. Just for a second. A flicker. A silhouette darting past the trailer. But when I turned to look directly, nothing. Just the steady rhythm of my own headlights and the long black ribbon of the road. I pulled into a rest stop sometime past 2 a.m. Place was deserted. One broken vending machine buzzing near the bathroom, and a flickering overhead light that made the shadows twitch. I stepped out, the cold slapping me awake. The trailer was quiet. I circled it slowly, boots crunching over gravel. That's when I saw the marks. Claw-like gouges along one side of the lumber stack. 4 deep scratches on a plank near the top. Too high for any animal I know. The wood splintered outward, like something had been trying to get out, or in. I didn't like the way my skin prickled. I chalked it up to vandalism. Maybe someone screwed with the load in Canada, and I hadn't noticed. Maybe it was just old damage from a forklift. I climbed back into the cab, started her up, and glanced once more into the rear window. And that's when I saw it. A pale hand, impossibly long, thin, almost skeletal, slithered back between the gaps in the lumber. Just for a split second, a blink, the hand pulled back and vanished into the darkness. I slammed the brakes, jumped out with my flashlight, but when I searched the trailer, there was nothing. No movement, no signs, just cold air and the faint smell of wet wood. I told myself it was a hallucination, lack of sleep, brain hiccups, but my hands didn't stop shaking. I considered stopping in the next town, but dispatch was on my ass about delivery times. Said I was already behind. No room in the schedule for ghost stories. So, I kept driving. The road narrowed, coiling like a snake through the hills. No streetlights, no signs. The forest leaned close on both sides, like it was listening. Then, the truck jerked hard to the right. The engine sputtered. Dashboard lights blinked like a dying Christmas tree. I swore and yanked the wheel, guiding the rig onto the shoulder as the whole thing rumbled to a stop. Silence swallowed me. I tried the ignition. Nothing. Dead. I popped the hood, climbed out. The engine looked fine. No leaks, no smoke. But something smelled wrong. Like old rot. Like something wet and alive had crawled into the machinery. Behind me, the trailer groaned. I turned. The tarp covering the lumber was moving. Not from wind. It rippled in rhythmic waves, like something underneath was breathing. Then it tore. Figures pulled themselves free from the lumber pile, twisted things, all limbs and splinters, like dead trees warped into the shape of men. Their skin was bark and sinew, mottled with knots. Eyes glowed faint green, like swamp lights. Their mouths didn't open, but I heard them, deep inside my skull, whispering. I ran. I scrambled into the cab, slammed the door, locked it, shaking so hard I dropped my wrench. The creatures swarmed the truck. One climbed the hood, its hands cracking the windshield with a single strike. Another dragged its claws along the side door, leaving deep gouges in the metal. I reached under the passenger seat. There, inside the old metal box I never thought I'd need, was my emergency satellite phone. I called for help. My voice was hoarse, barely coherent. I gave my location, screamed that I was under attack. The dispatcher's voice crackled, and the line went dead. A creature shattered the passenger window. I swung the wrench. The blow connected. It screamed, a sound that pierced straight through the marrow. The others paused, pulled back. I didn't wait. I kicked the door open and ran. Behind me, they tore into the truck. I heard metal scream, glass pop. Then the whole cab groaned and flipped onto its side with a sickening crunch. I hit the ditch hard. Everything spun. I don't remember much after that. When the highway patrol found me hours later, I was walking barefoot down the center of the road, covered in blood and mud. I couldn't say my name, couldn't say anything, except the things in the wood. They said it was a freak accident, said my truck died and the load shifted, caused the crash, said I must have hit my head, hallucinated the rest. But I saw the lumber, saw how it twisted, how some planks had warped into almost human shapes, limbs, faces, eyes frozen mid-scream. The investigating officer didn't say anything, but he didn't look right either, like he'd seen it too. They called it trauma, told me to rest, said I'd probably never drive again, and they were right. I never went back on the road, but I still hear the whispers. Sometimes, when the wind moves through the trees outside my window, I swear I can still see those eyes, glowing faint in the dark, waiting, listening.